on different automation tools that includes UFT and performance testing tools alongside Selenium. But whatsoever the automation career is all about, it is always important for us to have the engineers who are being part of an organization, right? To groom them, to scale them up according to the current market demand. Each organization has its own set of demand, and each organization may have a different plan for their automation teams. It always depends upon the projects that you've been working with or the domains that you deal with. Your test automation needs are being aligned or adjusted according to the requirements. But yet, when we look at the overall scope, or instead a global scope, one second, I think there's a lot of disturbance around. Swati, I understand you wanted to have this a video enabled. Unfortunately, at the moment, I haven't ready for it because I haven't prepared on that part. So let us continue as it is a oral communication as we planned it. Okay. Okay, so whoever has certain messages and everything, we will always have the forum open for questions. At the time, like now, perhaps you check in your questions. Till then, like let's continue to understand about this SDET program. Okay. So coming to this SDET, which is for software development and engineering for a test engineer. Okay. I appreciate if everyone can go on mute. Okay, I'll walk you through the presentation yet. We have to first and foremost understand what SDET is. As I've already said, it is about the software development, engineering for test. Because your software engineering group, see every organization, right? Be it like, there are different projects that you deal with, as again said, or the different domains that you tend to deal with. The development is being planned in a more prescribed approaches, which is recommended by software engineering groups. There are already prescribed models which an organization follows that is recommended by the software engineering standards so that the project can be developed either in an incremental or in the non-incremental flow or whatsoever. Well, when it comes to the software engineering standards, right, it is categorized into two things. The first is the conventional models, which are all the parental models. Then also we have the projects which are being developed based on the agile models. Okay. Now, the software engineering for test role, it demands you to fit yourself. It demands you to fit yourself to work with both the conventional models as well as the projects that you have been working with the agile model. Now, in most of the organizations, with my experience that I've been working with, the software engineering group development, if I may have to say, most of the people strongly believe that development is only coding. However, any of the organization that we work with, the development do not stop only with coding, but also it also has something called testing. So any development groups or the engineering groups, which is part of our any set of organization that we have been working with, it includes the coding phase as well as a testing phase together called as a development. In fact, if I may also have to say, this is the designing followed with coding and testing put together is called as software development. And the development teams precisely includes the developers as well as the test engineers. But this concept is being totally misconsumed right? Like, maybe considering the terminologies that are being used as a part of our sessions. However, now it is important for us to understand about how the roles are been overlapping and how important is that for a test engineer to align his career according to the current market trends or the organizational needs. Okay, there are many questions that is floating into the chat conversation, which is beeping in between. I ask the participant to hold on for a couple of minutes because any which ways at the last, you will have the question and answer sessions where all your questions will be answered.
Ketan, this side, you can continue your session. I will reply on the chat window. Thanks.
Ketan, can you be a bit louder? Ketan, I can't hear.
I think
you just continue your session. Okay, I will reply on the chat questions.
Okay. Fine. When it comes to the development, as I said, that includes the designers, who is technically the software architects, and the programmers who can be able to do the coding or the development of an application, followed with the test engineer who can go ahead and test what is being designed and what is being developed. Now, coming to the primary aspect of this SDET, right? Why is this being so popular nowadays? It does not mean in the past we haven't done this role. But however, the roles, whatever we see in the conventional models, are more diluted, where we may used to have different people doing different tasks, right? We used to have the specializations of QA. When I say a QA is varying based on the specializations, right? Where like, I may have a QA person who can be able to do only manual testing, or I may have a QA person who with the knowledge of manual testing who will be able to do an automation testing. Again, when it comes to the automation testing, there may be the people with the knowledge of only functional testing, or there may be someone called the performance testers that are also considered as an automation test engineers. Now, however, if you look in, right, these roles, whatever that we see here, right, in these roles, whatever we see, whenever we work in the conventional models, these roles have been so diluted, not only that, but also the conventional model where the team used to work independently. So we always have something called independent testing teams, where they used to contribute for testing a particular application separately. But whenever you've been migrating from the conventional models to the agile model, now that in the market, right, most of the projects, whatever we've been, though it is following the conventional models, right, there is also something like, most of the projects are migrating to the agile. Most of the projects have been migrating to the agile, whereas agile, though it is not a development model yet, it is considered to be a methodology where certain iterative incremental approaches, right, when applied with some agile guidelines and the principles, are considered to be the agile methodologies. Okay, so the agile model precisely follows the iterative and the incremental approach. Okay, but most of the cases, people think like, no, iterative incremental approaches are still considered to be the conventional model. Yes, for sure, it is a conventional model. But however, when iterative and the incremental models applied along with the agile methodologies, right, which is nothing but the agile principles, is called out to be the agile model. They have come up with wide varieties of versions because agile is considered to be a more flexible model. It is considered to be a more flexible model, right, that can be customized, right, customized based on business needs, based on the business needs. Now the question is, does agile fit in for every business? Not necessary. So the reason why agile is a flexible model, because every business may have a different structure, different risk in like, the different capacity involved, different complexity involved. So based on certain parameters, there is a careful analysis and a study being conducted at the time of project planning itself. Should I be really following a conventional model, or should I go ahead and apply the agile model so that by end of the day, I may be able to get the results what the customer really wants it. But whenever you have been working with the agile, it is mandatory that it always has to follow the agile principles. It always has to follow the agile principles, and it has some agile manifesto and so on. But at the moment, we are not precisely discussing anything or deep dive into the agile, but however, a high level touch base to understand what agile is so that I can help you to transform and understand and look forward is as a test engineer roles plays a primary role in when it comes to the agile methodologies or even with the conventional models you've been working with. How are these skill sets that you are planning or whatever we've been planning, right? Or like no, or been scale like no designed as a part of the curriculum that can help you to fit in either into the conventional model or either into the agile model, irrespective of the project or irrespective of your domains. Okay. So if you look at whenever we've been working with the agile model, right, and the conventional model over the differences again. So there is an iterative approach which is being followed in the conventional model, which is followed in the conventional model. There is also an agile model which follows an iterative approach. The only potential difference, right? Or there are few potential differences between these two models. Okay, let me list it out, few of them. Okay, so first, if you look at the iterative model, which has been traditionally followed, that is derived from the waterfall model or so on, where the requirements are being splitted into bits and pieces, where at a certain particular iterative culture, there are only few requirements, like no, based on its complexity also it is being developed. Now, in any of the conventional model, what does it happens? In each iteration that I'm talking about, in each iteration, all the phases of SDLC are being repeated. All the SDLC phases are being executed or it is being performed, which includes the requirement analysis, right? It includes the design, then it includes coding, testing, followed with maintenance. But there is something what we also have to understand, that each iteration is of different timestamps. Different timestamps, which is decided, right? Which is primarily decided, or perhaps it is being planned, right? Based on the number of requirements chosen for development, right? And its complexity. Now let us consider they were at about 20 requirements, just for an argument's sake. They were at about 20 requirements that to be developed, right? What does it happens? It is been categorized into say 3 or 4 iteration. Now let's say iteration 1, iteration 2, or iteration 3, and so on. Let us say the team 1 who is doing the iteration 1, or the team A who is going to do the iteration 1 would have decided they will be able to develop 5 requirements. Perhaps to complete these 5 requirements, the team would have been chosen to go ahead, to consider it as 3 months of duration to develop this 5 requirements. Now, this duration is being decided based on the complexity of requirement. When I say the iteration 2, it can be eitherly sequentially performed, that is upon completion of iteration 1, they can carry out an iteration 2. If not, the spiral model kind of a thing follows an incremental approach, right? Or it can be a parallel approach. Now, let's say there is another team called Team B, which is planning to do another set of iterations simultaneously, have chosen to go with to develop only 3 requirements. Maybe for develop these 3 requirements, they again may wanted to go ahead, come up with some 3 months of duration. Okay. So not necessary that 5 requirements have taken 3 months is too high. At the same time, 3 requirements is looking forward for 3 months of duration. As again said, this purely depends upon how big or how small and how medium is that particular user stories. Okay. Now, similarly, either iteration which may either sequentially follow or it can be parallelly performed. So if you look at the iterative culture which is been followed, or the iterative model which has been done as part of your conventional model, is that we don't have been guaranteed that each one of the iteration is being executed and it can be deployable at a certain end date. And at the same time, each of these iteration is of different duration, which do not guarantee a customer by when the product will be ready. Now, sometimes what does it happens? By end of the iteration, there will be a potential build. But some scenarios, what does it happens? Upon a completion of some 3 to 4 iterations, then I can have some potential build developed. So in the conventional model, it never used to guarantee that there is always a potential outcome that is being given as a part of a deployment upon completion of this particular iteration. So instead, what the agile group they have done, when I say agile, right, I fundamentally say the agile is not a development model, but it is a methodology, which includes the best 12 principles of it. Along with that, okay, it also has something called manifesto. So there were groups of researchers, which includes Steinbeck, Mike, there are a few more authors. There were close to 12 to 14 authors who have tried implementing this agile methodology, have been defining these 12 principles, right? So when the iterative approach applies the agile methodology or principles, right, that includes few of those things that are taken care. It is said that whenever you're following an iterative approach with agile model, the iterations are supposed to be of fixed duration, are supposed to be a fixed duration. Now, this duration is expected anything between 2 to 4 weeks. This duration is expected to be anything between 2 to 4 weeks. Not only that, but also here, by end of every iteration, there is expected potential build. There is expected to be a potential build released to the customer. Okay, which we call it as working software, So I will explain how a potential build can be released to a customer and so-called the working software when I try to explain you about something called CI and CD, that is continuous integration and the continuous deployment, which is part of this SDET curriculum, and how important is that the test engineer should know the agile methodology before even we start learning about any of these particular technologies or any of the particular the components of SDET you may have to preferably go ahead and run. Now, anything that we've been doing it, right? You are not going to only contribute for integration and the deployment, but there is also something called continuous testing, right? There is also something called continuous testing where we need to have the test engineer to ramp up their amount of work, what we have been doing it, to be precisely injected as a part of your CI/CD engine. So while the integration happens, your smoke testing and your deployment followed with your deployable build can go through the automation testing using any one of the automation tools automatically. Whenever you have been working with the conventional model, right? The build, whatever that you have been developing as an output of each one of these iteration, right? The final integration happens or the build management happens manually. Final integration happens manually where there are developers do the integration of it and then that it is being shared for further testing. However, whenever you are being technically moving towards the agile with this culture of CI and CD, right? Every set of activity, whatever we are trying to do is being automated, So if I have to say CI and CD, right, is nothing but called as a technical agile. CI and CD is called as a technical agile. Now, it is important for each individual, be it a developer or be it a test engineer, must know what is CI and CD because you will be collaboratively working with the developer alongside. You will be also working with the DevOps engineer who is going to establish this pipeline to get this whole project integrated in a more precise approach, So if we look in this entire structure, right, let me consider the iteration, whatever I've been talking about, which is of fixed duration, right? In Agile, we'll call it as a sprint. We still can be comfortable enough to call this as an iteration, but though it is called as a sprint, which is anything between 2 to 4 weeks. Now, for an example or an argument set, let's consider if the sprint, right, is of 2 weeks duration, right? Now, it is important for the Scrum team, right? If they, like now, what does the Scrum team do? It is important for the Scrum team, right, to develop, or instead I shall say to design, develop, and test the application in this 14 days of time, in this 14 days of duration. So we need to understand about how these 14 days are being categorized into and what precisely the Scrum team am I talking about. So whenever I say a Scrum team, right, whenever I say a Scrum team is also called as a development team. Here, whenever you've been working with Agile, we don't have anything called developers as well as a test engineers. All together is considered to be called as a Scrum team, right? And the size of the Scrum team is expected to be anything between 7 plus or minus 2. I mean, this is the size of the Scrum team. In the conventional model, we don't have the fixed size of Scrum team. But whereas here in Agile model, being a flexible model, it recommends for the Scrum team size to be anything between 5 or 9 people. Now, the skill sets are being distributed, or the team is being distributed based on the skill sets. So let's say the Scrum team for maximum whatever I have is 9. So it comprises of maybe I can say I have 4 developers who can do the coding, right? And then I may have 5 test engineers, among which I can say 2 of them are QA who can do manual testing, right? Then 2 of them are QA who can do the automation testing, right, for functional testing, or they can do functional automation testing, which lands up at 8. Then I may have 1 person who can be a performance tester. Another person can be a performance tester. See, the size, whatever that I have taken, that 4, 2, 2, and 1, right? It is just for an argument's sake, approximately being planning my capacity, okay? But more of the projects, now let's say at the initial development phases, I may want to adjust the team size based on the complexity picked up. If I may wanted to have 5 developers, then maybe 3 test engineers and 1 performance test engineer, I can adjust the time, I can adjust the size of it where my project manager can be able to go ahead and decide how should be the number of roles to be distributed based on the complexity and the amount of work that it is being involved and the task that is being performed. But before go ahead to understand, there is something what we have to understand, that not every within this has to be fixed enough. There may be some set of roles to be distributed within the same project for the other Scrum team as well. Now, if you see the role of a performance test engineer, his role is not being recommended or not needed to be since the day one, right? Maybe performance testing is done only by the 8th day, or maybe slightly over a period of time when the builds get stable, and once after all the functional testing is being done, then he can be. Or the performance tester roles. Now, let's say right now I'm talking about the Scrum team A. I also may have the team B and C may need a performance tester. So I can have a single test engineer or a single performance test engineer, right, who can be distributed across different projects, who can play a distributed role. Right, across different Scrum teams. When I say Scrum team, right, within the same project, Well, now if you look at, while we know what is a Scrum team and we precisely know what is an iteration, right? Let us consider if it is a fixed iteration, which is of 14 days or 2 weeks of duration. how do we think that this development and the testing goes ahead? If you've been working with the conventional models, not the non-agile models, if you have been working with. So what usually happens is that, let us consider for a specific iteration, right? In a conventional model, let's say iteration 1, as I've already said, right, like which is for 3 months of duration, right? It would have been decided maybe, so like, 2 months for development, right? Maybe like, or I shall say 1.5 a month for development, or for the programmers to develop the code. Then maybe 1 month for testers who can carry out the system testing. Well, maybe another half a month, like, which can be like, used for maintenance or deployment specifically, or maintenance. So if you look at upon completion of the development, now let's say if I have 5 requirements, all the 5 requirements are developed, which would have taken approximately 1.5 months or 1.5 a month, then followed with all the 5 requirements upon integration. Once after the whole integration, or it comes to me as a build or as an application, then what happens? The test engineers will involve here to go ahead and carry out the testing on that particular module, which includes the functional testing, non-functional testing, and lot many. And finally, the deployment is being scheduled. But if at all you've been working with the agile model, in most of the agile model, we do not carry out in this particular manner. Okay. So in agile model, it turns out to be, because it is only for 14 days. The iteration is for 14 days, right? We have been calculatively dividing the days from when to do the development and when to do the testing, because this set of 14 days, whatever you have, right, which is further been decomposed into the 4 non-working days, that includes your Saturdays and Sundays. Non-working days, that mostly includes your 2 Saturdays and 2 Sundays of it. Well, after you exclude this, all that you are left behind is with the 10 days of duration. Now, amongst this 10 days of duration, right, there is something called day 1, right, which is always having a sprint plan meeting. So day 1 is for sprint plan meeting, followed with the day 14, which is the last day of an iteration, is scheduled to be your sprint review meeting, sprint review and retrospection. So in given this 10 days, right, or given 14 days where I have 4 non-working days, and amongst which I'm left behind with 10 days, there is a day which is sprint plan meeting, and day 2, which is for sprint retrospection, which has been scheduled, which are the primary meetings that happens as a part of your every iteration that you go with. All that the developers and the test engineers are left behind is only with the 8 days. Okay. So now, within 8 days, within these 8 days, right, how do we have the developer and the test engineer planning to go ahead and develop this? Planning to go ahead and develop the requirements is something precisely explained to us, that the entire development and testing happens here. The entire development and testing is being scheduled as a part of it. Now, when I have to do the development and testing, I cannot divide 4 days and 4 days. Instead, it is the agile follows a continuous integration and a continuous deployment, where the developer and the tester are day before and day behind. Someone attempted to stop sharing my screen. So the developer and tester are day before and day behind. Well, so whatever is developed today, whatever is developed today should be tested tomorrow. And not only that, within these 8 days of duration, right, we have to make out to understand how there is a potential bill that need to be developed, and that how can it be tested by next day is something what we have to go ahead in a more logical construct. Okay. So let us try to understand about this, how CI and CD that it is been scheduled. Now let us say you have been working for a project flow, right? So on the project flow, right, let's consider I have the team members, which includes the developer, right, or 3 developers. Okay. So let's say the developer 1 who will be able to develop. So we are on the day 1, we are on the day 1 of your project development, where the developer 1 would have developed some 15 units of code. I mean, this is the 15 classes or maybe 15 methods of it. So I may have another developer, right, who would have come up with some 10 units of code to be developed. Similarly, there may be another developer as a part of it to come up with some 10 units. Okay. So let me add few more units, like no, because considering the size of the development is 5, right? Like no, so each one of them would have done what? Would have developed 10 units. I am just for the argument's sake, I am taking up with. So by end of day 1, if I may say,
This thing.
So by end of day 1, if I may have to say, right? So close to, if you look at, there are close to 55 units that are being developed. There are close to 55 units that are being developed by only the team 1, or I could say this as a team 1. Well, let us consider my project has 5 Scrum teams. My project has Scrum teams, which each one of the team may, if I approximately consider 500 units. So on the day 1, all the 5 Scrum teams together would have arrived at developing somewhere close to 250 units. Now, whenever I say 250 units, right, it is much bigger in terms of number when it is calculated for every day. Okay. So over here, if you look at, in the conventional model, whenever that each developers are developing this code, it is being maintained in a centralized repository. And once in a while or once in fortnight, all these units are being picked up for integration. Then there will be an integration testing conducted, which was not supposed to be considered as a best practice because that is a non-incremental approach. But however, whilever you've been transforming from the conventional model to the agile model, right? The agile model follows a continuous integration where every day when there is a development, it is recommended that every day there should be an integration and every day there should be a deployment done. Now, if I may have to do that every day, right, it is quite tedious for me also to do it individually if I am being a programmer. So there is always a person called DevOps engineer. There is always a person called DevOps engineer. Okay. So now what each developer is going to do is that after completion of successful number of units that they have been developed, right, they are asked to maintain a copy of it into a centralized repository, where most of the people are precisely using something called GitHub. A GitHub is a centralized version control system, at the same time acts as a repository or a remote repository, which can help the whole lot of a team to maintain the project artifacts or the code bases at one particular point. Now, each one of the developer would have uploaded their workaround soon after completion into the GitHub, right? Now, on the other hand, if you look at, that is on the day 1, the developer is developing a particular application, I may have my testing team, right, who will be preparing a test code. Now, let's say if the developer 1 would have designed it for login module, maybe a fund transfer module, or maybe some XYZ module, what my test engineer does is that he can construct a test code. He will have the test code constructed. This has lots of formalities though, right? There is a structure for writing this test code as well. Now, what does it happens? This test code, whatever he prepared using some test automation tool, right? I will talk about which automation tool is that and how are we been aligning all these things. We will connect the dots very clearly, but have little patience, okay? Now, I being a test engineer, I may have the group of test engineers, like, let's say I have XYZ number of test engineers. So now what the test engineer would have done is that there is something called automation code that can test the functionalities of whatever the code that is being developed by the test engineer, right, from front end. So the test code would have been uploaded into the tester's GitHub. So there are two GitHub repositories maintained, one by the developer, the other by the test engineer. Now, the test engineer is going to upload the test automation framework or a project into the GitHub, whereas I have my developer who has uploaded his test, the code that it is being developed into the GitHub. Now, firstly, what the DevOps engineer does is that he would have been written a framework. There is a pipeline framework which is written. So there is an automated framework constructed by a DevOps engineer that can help me to do the continuous integration in a more automated approach. So what this framework does is that it is been scheduled. It is been written such a way, or it is been programmed such a way every day, right? Maybe at 5 p.m. Every day, maybe at 5 p.m., right? My DevOps framework, I mean to say the framework that it is being developed by the DevOps engineer, right, or the code that it is being written, which comprises of different types of tools available in the market, right, will have a tendency to pull all the code that is available on the GitHub repository or the global repository, right, that is uploaded by the developer. Now, once the code is being pulled, right, once the code is pulled from GitHub, from the developers GitHub instead, I shall say developers GitHub, right? The code has to go through some set of guidelines and the principles or some set of activities, right? So what are the activities includes? The first and the foremost, the code will be validated. The code is expected to be validated, or instead I shall say the code is expected to be reviewed. If at all you've been working with the conventional model, we had something called inspections, reviews, and the walkthroughs, which was a manual attempt to do, where each line of a code is estimated. Then they used to apply the MECAPS formula. There were some white box testing techniques that can evaluate the code for code coverage and so on. But however, while we move forward, right, we have been sitting down on all those manual activities, where there are several tools that are available in the market, where static analysis, that is nothing but the static analysis is a mechanism where the code can be reviewed. The code to be reviewed according to organizational standards. The code should be reviewed according to the organizational standards. Ensure to see that there are no dead codes, ensure to see the variables are being clearly listed, and ensure to see the logic behind construction, or there are no too many lines of code, right? So all these things are being evaluated to see if the code is being good or bad. Okay, how good is the code or how bad is the code logically. At the same time, it also has to meet certain criteria or the metrics that have been defined by an organization. So once the code is being reviewed, the second it follows out to be the reviewed code has to be unit tested. This is very important. The reviewed code has to be unit tested. Now, this unit testing is first and foremost being automated from the Agile. In the past, the unit testing was done manually, where the unit test cases were being written and then followed with where they used to have the integration testing carried out. But however, starting with the Agile model, when Kent Beck has introduced this extreme programming, which is one of the Agile development model, right? So he, along with one of the author, that is Eric Gama, he is one of the programmer, they have introduced a component or a plugin called JUnit. Now, while I have a JUnit which can help me to test the code, I mean to say unit test the code to see if the code is functionally fit enough for positive and the negative test data. So the JUnit component is used if it is Java or NUnit or now and then more the programming languages that you have been working with. Every programming languages has its own set of unit testing plugin that can take you to validate the code functionally. So here, what does it happens? Here, the code is validated functionally to see if the code being written, which is logically correct enough for the valid input as well as the invalid inputs. Okay. So there are some assertions that are being used and so on. The next, once after the code is unit tested, and if the unit testing is successful, then what does it happens? There happens to be the integration. There happens to be the integration of the units will happen. Now, once after the units are integrated, it is no more called as a unit. It is called as a build. Now, the version of build can be anything. It can come to you in the form of a DLL, or few people can it be integrated as a jar file. It comes to you as a var file, or it comes to you as a ERF file, or whatsoever. But here, what does it happens when one or more units are being integrated, the builds are being formed. Now, let me label this build as build 1.0 version. I will tell you why this I given the name as 1.0. Then, to the existing integration units, once after the integration of units is being done, it is important for me to check if all the units are being integrated properly or not. So, there will be something called integration testing also will be done. Integration testing will also be done to check if all the integration is been smoothly conducted or not. Finally, what happens? The DevOps engineer, after conducting the integration testing, where you will have something called the validated build. Validated build, which is of version 1.0. Which is of version 1.0. Now, what the DevOps engineer will do this, into this automated framework of a pipeline, right? Now, he will try to fetch the code, that is the test code available and that is being developed by the test engineer, which is available in the tester repository or the remote repository created by the test engineer. So, followed with, first and the foremost, the DevOps engineer will try to run the smoke test cases. When I say the smoke testing, where the compatibility testing that need to be done, which always need some automation code, that always needs an automation code to be executed against the build, to check the primary functionalities if all the functionalities have been working correctly or not. Well, after the smoke testing is done, the DevOps engineer would have also integrated another container tools, especially, which is for further deployment, right? In terms of deployment, what happens is that the build 1.1, which I am talking about, or the build 1.0, whichever I've been talking about, will be executed against different environments. Will be executed against different environments. Well, so now maybe like by changing in terms of operating systems or maybe in different environments, how my build will react and respond is being clearly executed. And even this is been automated. I don't have to run the build across multiple environments. The tool will automatically run this, which has some set of container tools that are available in the market. Now, post deployment, what happens, right? Here, there will be a final reporting that will be done. So that's that the crystal reports are being generated. The crystal reports are generated. Well, to do all these things, right? To do all these things, it is manually too tough. So what the DevOps engineer is going to do is that he is going to support or he is going to fetch the data from the developers. What he can do is the first few activities at the same time. He is also going to collaboratively work with the test engineer to get the details from his GitHub repository so that he can go ahead and execute the smoke testing followed with the deployment and reporting. Now, at the exit of the day one, right now, if you look at this build integration and build deployment, whatever I said, it would have started at 5 p.m. on day one. It would have started at 5 p.m. on day one. And all those XYZ list of things, whatever I have said, is executed overnight. It is executed overnight because it's an automated approach. It does not manually need any kind of interventions. Now, upon execution of this overnight build, whatever we call this as an overnight build, the next day, right, whether the build is success or the build is failure. Now, let's say whatever the build is success will be shared with the testing team. It will be shared with the tester. Now, when it will be shared with the tester, will be shared to the tester on day 2. So that the tester will go ahead and do the complete level of functional testing, that is nothing but the system testing. Because at the time of initial testing, whatever that they have done is only a smoke testing, where my complete functionality of an application is not yet tested. Now, this system testing may be either done manually or by automation. If it is done automation, then there to be an automation framework developed. Now, if there are any kind of a failures, the concerned developers will be notified across the email to look forward to come back and with the corrections by the next day. If this is a culture followed on the day one, right, by day two, which gives your test engineer a build, that is the test engineer will have something called build 1.0, right, which is ready for testing. So if you look at every day there is a integration and every day there is a deployment and every day there will be a testing. On the day one, there is some testing done, or the testing activity is done, and on the day two, there is a testing activity done. To coming back to justify the statement that the developer and the test engineer a day before and a day behind is the continuous integration process that is followed for the next 8 days that is left behind for you in the agile or sorry, in the current sprint or a current iteration. So for these 8 days, what happens? There will be a continuous integration, a continuous deployment, which is going to happen every day, which may be manually difficult, but the mechanism is being automated. Now, see the role of a developer over here, right? Like now, which is for the complete build management activity, or the role of a DevOps engineer is also been like now very well prescribed, like now for which you have to learn the DevOps over here and you have to defaultly be a developer. But how important is role of a test engineer whenever it comes to the continuous integration, the continuous deployment? Okay. And what are those few things does the test engineer has to know to align his skill sets that is needed to be met according to the CI and CD, your SDET program is aligned. Are you all in sync with me? So the coverage, whatever you see, the coverage of SDET program, right, includes the skill sets needed for a test engineer. The skill sets needed for a test engineer to contribute the for the project, to contribute for the project under developed under CI and CD, which is a technical agile. Now, whenever you've been contributing as a SDET engineer, the primary prerequisite is for sure the test engineer has to have the skill sets of manual testing, have to have the manual testing skill sets. But alongside, it is also important to have the ability for a test engineer to be able to scale up with the automation testing, because it is a continuous integration and continuous testing followed with continuous deployment, right? It is a continuous integration, continuous test, and the continuous deployment. So the test engineer plays a pivot role over here whenever you are working under the agile model. Not just because you're following a CI/CD, but there is also something you may also have to know, because the agile follows the development plan, right, based on the testing plan. In most of the conventional models, that whatever that you have been already working with or you've been already aware of with agile model, well and good. In most of the conventional models, right, your development plan is separated from, or it is different from testing plan. There is no correlation at all. But however, in the agile model, right, the developers will develop, or the development is scheduled based on test plan, based on test planning. This culture of scheduling a development based on the testing is initially introduced by Ken Beck, right, as a part of extreme programming. which was the initial development model of Agile, which is the initial development model of Agile. Later, like, it was been slightly outdated. I don't say instead of outdated, right? Slightly the version is being revised. Okay. So over here, the development model, like whatever it is being designed based on the Agile principles and its guidelines. However, the Kenbeck has introduced one of the approach that is nothing but the test-driven approach. We call it as TDD approach, which is test-driven development. So what happens in the test-driven development is something really very important for us all to know. Okay. In conventional model, what usually happens is that in conventional model, primarily what happens, the phases are categorized as the requirement analysis will be done by each one of the team, right? Well, then followed with, there will be a designing, then there will be a coding. Upon completion of the coding, the testing will start. Finally, there will be a deployment. However, in the TDD approach, it is said that the testing should be done. The testing is done before coding. Testing is done before coding. Or more precisely, the test execution should be done. The test execution is done before coding. But how that could be possible? Because we will not be able to do execution until otherwise the build is ready. However, the Kenbeck has come up with the theory of defining on how can be the test execution can also precisely done so that there will not be any kind of a deviation in terms of what is unit tested against what is system tested. But later this TDD approach is been slowly migrated to ATDD approach, which we will take a quick look about it, but let us try to understand this TDD approach. So in TDD approach, if I say, right, first and foremost, we have to, each individual may have to understand the requirements, that is for sure, okay? But in the TDD approach, the requirements are understood in the user stories. Any of the Agile model, what happens, the requirements are being translated into user stories, which has a proper template to understand what the requirements are and how should be a particular requirement being developed from a user perspective. Now, upon understanding the user requirement, what Kenbeck has proposed is that instead of directly going ahead and understanding the requirements and doing a development, Kenbeck has asked the developers to go ahead and derive the unit test cases for this particular user stories. Okay. Now, upon identifying what are all the unit test cases is that for each one of the test case have it been written, there is expected to be some unit test methods developed. Okay. Now, these unit test methods to develop, right? Because if you've been working with, it is initially introduced with Java only. So using one of the plugin or one of the API JUnit, which has been developed, with which there were some unit test methods that have been created where this particular API has some set of classes that can help you to convert the test cases into test methods. Now, once the test methods have been created, Kenbeck has proposed these test methods are expected to be executed. These test methods are expected to be executed because it is important for me to understand that given all the test cases written by the developer, have it been all them put to the use or not, provided when it is been executed, which we call it as a dry run, from which I will try to understand that every test case do have a corresponding test method. Because if there is a test method, then it is considered that there will be a code written. However, if you look at, once the execution is being done here, the execution will make the test to be failed. The execution will make the test to be failed because there is a method which is being created. However, those are the empty methods or the methods that are available where the code is never been exercised. So there's a code to be written, right, which isn't written. So first, there was a testing conducted to ensure to see if it satisfies, if all the test cases have been covered. Because in most of the conventional model, what is happening is that the test coverage is a primary loophole where, like, no, it might not guarantee that all the test cases are executed. So into the, like, no, this TDD approach, it guarantees that if I have wrote 10 test cases, all the 10 test cases will have 10 test method, so that it is already executed once, well before the coding being done. Now, once after I get a confirmation that all the tests failed, now then the developers were asked to go ahead and do the coding, right? Whenever you have been doing the coding over here, well, what happens, like, no, it is quite usual, the code has to be executed again. Now, whenever the code is executed, it is expected the test to be passed. It is expected the test to be passed because the coding, whatever it is being done, is executed till the test returns pass. So it depends upon how good or the bad the programmer is and how good or the bad code he tend to write. And but he has to keep on right as long as the test cases that have been written here, well, it is been executed once again, it returns me a pass. And if it demands me to do the optimization, the team can go ahead do the refactoring of it. It can go ahead do the refactoring of it. So this culture of driving the development based on the test scenarios or the test cases is nothing but the TDD approach. But initially when this been introduced, this sounds to be more practical. However, they were still being left behind. Some set of scenarios have gone untested because there is still a lot of defect leakage upon doing this mechanism. So while we move forward or while we've been transforming from extreme programming to the Scrum approach, this model is being once again revisited and they labeled it as an ATDD approach, which is nothing but acceptance test driven development. Acceptance test driven development. Now, in this case, what does it happens is that here, all those user stories, whatever it is being written, before it gets transformed into the unit test cases, right? There is always a challenge for a developer to identify what the test cases are. So what my test engineer does is that, given the user stories, whatever it is there, right? For those particular user stories, the test engineers are expected to come up with something called acceptance criteria. The test engineer are expected to come up with something called acceptance criteria. So now what exactly is an acceptance criteria? The acceptance criteria is nothing but the testable requirements, right? From the user stories, right? It is the step-by-step instruction. It is a step-by-step instruction that repeats the user requirements for positive and negative conditions. Positive and negative conditions. Now, how should be these acceptance criteria being written? These acceptance criteria should be written in a easy understandable language. Easy understandable language. Well, so which there are many languages that are popular in the market, but there is this language called Gherkins, okay, which has become more popular, which is written in the form of given, when, and then. Okay, there are these keywords, which is, we call it as a given, when, then format. Okay, so now all those acceptance criteria that is being highlighted are written by the test engineer. So this is done by who? This is done by the test engineer. But however, once after the test engineer writes it, there will be a person who has to review and approve them. So, and this is reviewed and approved by your product owner. I will tell you why it should be approved by the product owner, because the product owner is the person who is a business representing your business, will be familiar about the in and out about what the requirements are. Now, if you look at these acceptance criteria, right? Sorry, is there an intervention? Okay, so if there is an acceptance criteria, what is being written, right? If I may have to understand it on the grounds, right? This acceptance criteria is not necessarily to be used only by the tester, though designed by the tester. It is used by the entire Scrum team. It is used by the entire Scrum team, which includes the developers. It includes the testers also. Also, it is used by the product owners. When I say the developer will go ahead to plan its coding based on the acceptance criteria. The tester will plan his system testing based on the acceptance criteria, and the product owner is to use them at the time of sprint review to test, or like no, if a simple language, if I may have to say, they will use it at the time of UAT. So the tester, whoever been part of the Scrum team, plays a lead role to write these acceptance criteria and have them been approved. Now, what happens to your TDD approach when it is being derived based on the acceptance criteria? If you look at, so from the user stories, your test engineer will give you acceptance criteria. There is no need of unit test cases anymore, which to be written by a developer. Now, what the developer will do, each one of the acceptance criteria, whichever it is there, will be converted to the unit test methods, right? Using any one of the unit testing framework, and then followed with when it executed, the test still fails. But however, here our intention behind the initial run, which this called as a red cycle. This first level of execution is called as a red cycle. A primary agenda or objective of conducting the red cycle is ensured to see, does every acceptance criteria do have a corresponding test method or not? Right? Though it fails, it is guaranteed that if the method is there, that there will be a coding done. Now, if the coding is being done based on the acceptance criteria and further it is executed and it turns out to be passed, now what does it happens? While the developer had developed based on the acceptance criteria, which is a test code, I will have, the tester will be doing the testing based on the acceptance criteria. Now, in this case, the acceptance criteria, which is under ATDD approach, which is used by the developers, which is a framework used by the developers, I need to have a concurrent framework, which is being used by the test engineer for carrying out the testing process. So if you look at, these steps have been also followed by the test engineer. Where the test engineer, after writing the acceptance criteria, right, instead of having the unit test methods, he will create a system test methods using the same JUnit. Now, for the system test methods, when executed, if it is being failed, the testers are expected to write the coding. Do not be confused between what is the coding done as a part of ATDD. The coding over here, which is helping you to develop the feature, right? It is helping you to develop the feature. But whereas in here, over the coding, whatever we are talking about is going to have the code written, which can test the feature. Now, the coding, whatever it to be written, right? The test engineer has to have the knowledge of any of the automation tool, preferably Selenium. So, to ensure, to align the roles, to align the QA roles into the agile models, the tester is expected to have, few set of knowledge, few set of components that primarily they have to know, alongside the skill sets of manual testing, which is by default. Okay, so where the tester must also know how to do the coding using Java, because whatsoever that I have been talking about, be it Selenium or any of the components, right? The fundamentals of them have been constructed based on the Java platform. You can know any of the programming language. Instead of Java, you can also know Python. Okay, but Java has become popular. Also, alongside, you can also have Python, like which can be useful for you. But the curriculum, let us go with one end-to-end structure. Alongside, not only that, whenever you have the knowledge of Java, but you also have to know how to do an automation testing, using Selenium. But if I may have to talk about Selenium, right, very crisply, Selenium is an open source. Selenium is an open source tool for automating the web applications. However, being it as an open source, it do not come to you as a complete package where you can completely achieve the test automation framework, because the test automation framework, if you may have to develop, or maybe if you wanted to develop an end-to-end test automation framework, right? It isn't enough if you only know Selenium. Alongside Selenium, you may also have to know few of the other API and its components. So whenever you've been learning with Selenium alone, which isn't sufficient, which may also need you to go through about some advanced concepts of Selenium that may need to have the knowledge of TestNG, right? Then you may also have to know about how to build a test automation framework. Alongside, as I've already explained, CI and CD is mandatory for you also to know about the high level language. Then you must also know how to work with Jenkins. Well, you also have to know how to upload or clone your projects and then run your projects from the Git repository. Well, which is nothing but Git or GitHub, you have to know. Well, if I may have to do all these things integratedly, right? Because CI and CD, whenever I talk about, right, it cannot be achieved with a single component. The CI and CD always need Jenkins along with Git or GitHub. Alongside, you also need one of the build management tool that is commonly used by the developers as well as a test engineer, that is nothing but Maven. So Maven is also your primary criteria that aligns your SDET role or engineering role, where these are the few things that primarily you have to know. Now, after knowing all of things, right, how can you be able to develop the test automation framework is one thing, right, according to the conventional model. Alongside, you may also have to know how to develop a test automation framework that matches the BDD framework criteria. How to develop a test automation framework in BDD style. If I may have to know about the BDD style, along with the first 7 components that I have already listed, you may also have to know about something called working with BDD using Cucumber, right? Where Cucumber is integrated along with JUnit and Selenium that can help you to achieve the test automation framework using BDD. Well, so the entire SDET's curriculum that it is being proposed to you, which will make you walk through about all of this set of things, which may help you to accomplish the role or satisfy the role called SDET. But also, if you look in, it is also important for you to understand as a test engineer, your role is not about only functional testing, right? But also you may have to some extent test the APIs of it. So API testing is also something very important, but defaultly the manual testers will have the knowledge of API testing. But at the same time, there are several API testing tools do available in the market, right? Like you have SOAP UI, you have REST Assured and so on. So as a part of this curriculum, you will be facilitated with something called REST Assured, which can help you to carry out a API testing, which can be injected along with TestNG and so on, so that there is that API testing also to be done on the web application, whatever you've been testing. So by end of this program, by end of this training program, right, every individual will be fairly groomed enough on one programming language and one automation testing tool with one testing framework that can fit yourself to have been participate in the CI and CD, where you can deal with Jenkins, you can deal with uploading and downloading, cloning, merging, and deal with how to create or do the build management on the GitHub. Alongside, you will also know how to create the Maven project and execute the projects on the back end on the command line interfaces, right? Well, also you will be fitting to go ahead and work with the projects that are being developed based on the BDD style or the ATDD style, where you will try to learn about the Cucumber, JUnit, and Selenium alongside the API testing can also be part of it. So the entire SDET curriculum, whatever it is being given to you, it includes all of this particular topic that can help your career graph to move forward. But there may be something, always a question running in my mind, in everyone's mind, that do we need to upgrade only on Selenium or maybe only Cucumber? I don't think so. That will fit in for the current market competition. See, the current market competition happens to be, I may have a test engineer who is with only the manual testing background, is still not sufficient. At the same time, if I may have to say, if I have a test engineer who is with any one of the automation testing tool, now let's say I know about doing the test automation for sure using Selenium, but however, I am unsure about how this Selenium can be implemented in BDD style, or how can I inject my test automation using CI and CD pipelining. Then again, it needs a migration. But whenever I say SDET program, right, it comes as a full package where you will turn out, instead of to be only a manual tester or an automation tester, right, you will turn out to be an automation engineer, right? technically you will be able to build an architect or build a test automation framework, build a test automation architecture according to the project needs. According to the project needs. But to build this, like now you perhaps need to know the entire SDET content. Okay, so this is fairly about my version of looking at the SDET. Okay, which is for your reference.
Ma'am, we have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
The information which you have shared is perfect about the testing process, but as we have in the session we have talked about Java or Python. So just wanted to know that to which extent a tester has to learn the programming language, because there is no end in it, and there is microservice architecture also. Then there is
I'll tell
Spring
you,
Boot
see,
also.
one thing we have to understand this, Gaurav, okay? See, knowledge of any programming languages is very important, firstly.
Yes.
When it comes to the programming languages, right? Using this programming language, which development framework do you wanted to develop is a different story if you are thinking as a programmer. But
Okay.
as a test engineer, you at least, I mean to say, when I say the basics of programming language, right? Most of the programming languages has some structural approach and it do have some object-oriented programming. So as a test engineer, you must be aware of a programming language in terms of its structure-oriented as well as the object-oriented. Now, whether you've been developing certain framework or there is lots of the frameworks in Java, that is only for a programmer. But as a test engineer, I must be able to understand and know how logically I can construct the code. Okay. Any programming language, you are strong enough that can help you to learn testing at a core fundamentals. I mean, strong in terms of fundamentals, because everyone will say, I know basics of Java. But when I say basics of Java, it is not about only writing if conditions or declaring a variable, right? We
Yes,
have to
true.
also understand the object-oriented programming. There may be a dynamic polymorphism, because whatever Selenium, Cucumber, JUnit, whatsoever that I have mostly listed over here, right? These are all going to come to us in the form of a APIs or in the form of a jar files. Now I must be able to deal fairly with what are the different classes of class do I have, what are the different types of abstract methods I have, and how can I go ahead logically construct the code. Okay, so when I say a test automation code, right, that includes Java, it includes Selenium, it includes test engine. Not only that, it also includes Apache POI. Okay, it includes Apache POI. You may have to do the extent reports, right? You may work with something called Common IOs. All these are the Java libraries only. This has been built based on Java libraries. So each one of them may have different classes and its structure. Okay, so fundamentals, I mean, the strong on fundamentals is important. You may no need to know till it comes to the development of a product, but you have to know as much as it is needed for testing a product.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, ma'am.
Hope your question is answered.
Yes, truly.
All right. Are there any other questions? There are a lot many, I hope.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Go on, Vigneshwan.
Yeah, hi, ma'am. Really, it is informative session.
Thank you so
I
much.
hope, yeah, thanks for your kind information also. So my doubt is like I am already working in automation process only. So I am using like Selenium player with the Java, core Java level. So I am almost I have did like I mean with the extensive knowledge of like TestNG level and Apache POI, right? With for data-driven framework, right? That means. So instead of using Excel sheet, is there any other source? It is any latest thing can we use in framework?
More than it is latest, Vignesh, it is about what is in demand in the market is very important for us. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Primarily, people are looking for reading the data from Excel. But apart from that, you can read it from a CSV file. You can read that from a property file. You can also read that from a database. So whenever we say a data-driven testing, right, because the test automation comprises of data-driven testing as a primary framework, where you may tend to read the data from any sources. It is not necessarily only Excel. But Excel has become popular. I'll tell you the reason. The test cases that whatever you tend to write, right, the manual test cases, you see there is a test data column, or you maintain the test data in some sheet called validation table. So what happens? I wanted my code to go back and read the test data from the Excel sheet, which is maintained as a test case. So that's why it has become popular. If not, you're good to read that from a database also.
Yes,
You
that is
don't have
true.
any standard rule that you have to read that only from Excel.
Yeah,
But it
for
is
layman.
popular.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
That's all.
Yeah,
Like
for
I'm done. You have
for
to
layman, it is Excel sheet will be useful. But
Hmm.
nowadays we are integrating API automation testing also, right? For the rest assured we have to. That is old,
Yes,
but
yes.
still
Like
we
from
are.
the rest assured
Yeah,
with TestNG, we can have it integrated.
yeah. For rest API testing, I don't. So far, I don't have integrated the API testing with my framework, automation framework. So how about the API testing integration in this case? Like, how can we going to integrate API testing and UA testing for automation test scripts? How will be doing this kind of testing? It is depends on the project, or it is like
So firstly,
any.
like,
Yeah.
the project need to have that API request and the response happening. Okay. Very quickly, I doubt if I have that rest assured project. Okay. So here we go. So what happens, all those HTTP requests, whatever we have, right? We will be able to write them around in the form of a request. Even this supports, because there is something called rest assured. Okay, is one of the API that is available that can be injected to your Eclipse for API testing. Now, this rest assured API has some default set of class libraries that can help you to trigger some API, like, the request on your specific URIs. So you have to download this rest assured API. Okay. Now,
Mhm.
if you look at, it can be written in the BDD style also. I think this one is written in the BDD style, which is in given when then format. So
Yeah.
given
Gherkin.
this URL, right, then there is a status code that is nothing but the response code, what it returns. So then
Yes.
you will be able to evaluate. Now, if you see here, there is a checkpoint. If that position, whatever the JSON file has this value, which is equal to 8, then it has to make the test pass or the test failed. So this can be written, and these are all the formats which are being inbuilt, which is part of your the library, which I said, the rest assured library.
Yes. Ham trust, right? That is also one of the
So
framework.
these two
Yeah.
are all like, no, see, all these three are from rest assured.
Yeah.
At the moment, I have done a static import of all these things. If at all you are doing a matches, I mean to say comparing the expected values against, then you need to have these matches, especially these methods which says equals to, has an item and all comes
Yeah.
from these matchers.
Yeah. Instead of assistant, we can use this one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, why I have raised a question for the Apache POI, right? So JSON is one of the famous for test data, right? Preparation and all. So can we use instead of using Excel, then instead of Excel, we have to use JSON. Then anything trouble for normal users or like
So
eh,
you
eh,
mean to say that data-driven testing, can it be read the data from JSON? Yes, it is
yeah,
possible.
that is
It
I
is
mean yeah.
possible,
Uh-huh.
but however, Vignesh, I doubt this current curriculum will cover about it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? Because like no, that you have to be able to deep dive about creating the JSON. You must be having. I mean to say the curriculum when I'm talking about is not equipped where it can read the data from JSON, but it is possible.
Okay.
Okay. You can
Okay,
read
ma'am.
from XML, JSON, whatsoever the format it is there.
Yeah.
Your code, I mean, as again said, right? All that
Yeah.
you need is a right API and the right logic of code to be constructed.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I'm asking for not API, that web
So
application
web
testing. That
application
is,
only.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
talking about like when you're automating an application using
Yeah.
Selenium, you're
Yes.
still allowed to read the data from JSON.
Okay, ma'am. So that
Okay.
is that is also possible, right? Instead of using Excel, that is
You
also,
can use, that's
yeah.
what it depends upon the needs and the demands,
Mhm.
where exactly is your test data available.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your kind response, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions that I may have to take through? Because there are lots of questions in the chat conversation.
Hi, I have one question.
Okay,
Uh,
go ahead.
is the is Selenium Python is good or Selenium with Java is good?
See,
Which
by
is
default,
good in the
Selenium is constructed based on Java platform. Even you tend to write the code in Python, right? It will be later translated through Selenium server into Java only. So primarily, we will try to understand the Java libraries so that like, you can write the program using any of the IDEs, but further it will be translated to Java only.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
One more question I have, that you told, right? So many Scrum Master will be there in the one project. So that Scrum Masters will be the each module, or means each
No, I
Scrum
never
Master has
said that
the.
there are several Scrum Masters. I never spoke about a Scrum Master.
Okay.
I never spoke about a Scrum Master role, but instead I spoke about a Scrum team.
Yes, Scrum team you are telling about, sorry.
Yeah.
That 5 or 9 people
Yeah.
team will be there.
Mhm.
So each the different team will be there, right? A, team B, team
Yeah,
C.
parallelly, you may have multiple Scrum teams who will be
Yeah,
working
so
on.
that will be the each module will be different for the each Scrum module.
No,
So
that is depends upon on the day of a sprint plan meeting, the Scrum team
Okay.
will decide from the product backlog, right? Which are the user stories that they wanted to develop, right? It will
Okay.
go based on the importance that is given by the or prioritization given by the product owner into the product backlog for every user stories. So the whole Scrum team will decide which user stories or how many user stories that to be developed, which we call it as a velocity, that will enter something called sprint backlog.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Madam.
Yeah, Clinton.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for the presentation. It was wonderful.
Can you? Your voice is very feeble. Can you be a bit louder?
Hear me? Hello?
Yeah, please go on.
Hello?
If you are not able to speak, can you please raise your question in the chat conversation?
Hello?
Yeah, one question. Can I?
Proceed, Clinton.
Hello?
Clinton, we can hear you. Make it louder.
Having some technical issues here.
Clinton, please raise your question in the chat conversation. I can quickly help you around. Maybe meanwhile, can I go to the next person if at all the other person has any queries?
Jyoti, this is Prateek. I have one question, quick one.
Hi,
That's
Jyoti.
fine.
You can't share.
Hey, Prateek.
Yeah, what would be the duration for this course, and I mean, what would be the expertise level which
The
we'll
duration
gain after
of this course, it depends upon the schedule that you have opting for.
It's a 12 weeks.
Do I have Ketan? Ketan,
Jyoti,
can you help?
yeah, it's going to be 12 weeks. Saturday, Sunday classes will be there. It's a weekend program.
Okay, and for Jyoti in particular, how much experience do you think this course will add up to our STT? So for someone who's coming in from a manual testing background, what do you say after completing this course? Can he showcase himself as
See, by end of this
expertise?
course, I'll tell you, if you've been really investing some times in terms of a perfect learning journey, and at an implementation level, if you could able to really perceive the topics, right? You may be able to go back and immediately automate an application. Or you can participate in certain agile projects, which has been following a CI and CD, you will be good to participate very immediately. If this training is being correctly taken in a correct learning direction, then for sure it can be. And when I say it adds up a weightage onto your profile, according to current market trends, if I may have to look in, SDET is hot running. SDET is hot running. So there is always a value that counts up to your profile where it can be easily shortlisted.
All right,
Hello,
thank
madam.
Go on, please.
Yes, so sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. I just had a little stuff in mind. I was really actually wanted to get more deep into automation, but what is actually the best programming language that you can start with to really get a great hands-on with automation?
So for this SDET program, we will be starting up with Java.
Okay, so you recommend is that all inclusive, or you need to first of all
It is inclusive.
like from the base, or it's you must have prior knowledge of Java before you
It
can
starts at
start?
the base. It starts at the base, starting with the initial, As because like no, what happens whenever we schedule a batch, right? It's of proportion of the mixed knowledge. But anything we'll start at a scratch it itself. Though we may have someone experienced or already have a better knowledge, or I may also have participants with some zero knowledge. But whatsoever the knowledge levels of the participants, the session starts with the zero fundamentals.
Awesome. And it goes through all what you talked about, like all the Jenkins, everything,
Yes.
Cucumber, Selenium.
Yes, it goes through everything.
That's awesome. And when actually is the start date? And I mean, how can will I need to talk with you out of here, maybe for the like the requirements and a lot more detail about it?
Okay, I'll pass this question to Ketan.
Yes, I'm talking to Clinton.
Ketan, if you are there
Sorry,
on
what's
the
the question? Yeah, what's the question, Jyoti?
he wants to know how sooner is the upcoming batch or the expected schedule.
So within 2 weeks, 26th of June, we are going to start the next batch.
All right. And I don't know if I can like talk out of here, like for the modalities and you know, like if you want to join and stuff like that. Who do I reach after this?
Yeah, so I'm just sharing a number on the chat window. You can give a call, or I'm just sharing the email ID as well. Okay,
Awesome. Okay. Okay. I'll get it from there. Thank you.
thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Jyoti. I can't
Yeah,
share.
please
Am
go
I
ahead.
audible?
Please go ahead, Akash.
Yeah. So my question is like, as you mentioned on someone's reply, like whether we are writing the code in Python or in C Sharp, but it is like getting converted in the Java Selenium code.
Mm-hmm.
So if it is like this, then what is the use of like defining like what is the use of supporting other languages? So like the developer or the tester can use the
I'll
Java
answer this
directly.
question. See, whatever this translation do happens, right? There is a server, that standalone server that internally translates. Now, if you may ask me, why should we even write it in any of the programming language, right? Do consider, I have been working with the project where the project is compatible enough to be written using C Sharp. And I have the, like, the crowd or the population with the skill sets of C Sharp. Or maybe I have a participants who can tend to write the code with the skill sets of Python. Yet I need to have an automation testing built. So what happens? The code can be written in any programming language, yet it is being executed in Java.
Okay, makes sense. So like does it make any like time related difference while converting the code inside Java?
Usually it will
Like
not.
does it take long time?
No, it will not usually, because it is internally translating it. Exclusively, it is not going to take any extra time over.
Okay.
Because the servers will be injected as a part of your existing project. Okay, so it will internally translate it.
Actually, this is like kind of a new thing I have been listening. So I'll surely like do R&D around it. So thank you for that.
Please,
And I
so
have
whenever you visit this, the website selenium.dev, right? You will find the complete documentation about how the server translates those instructions. Okay, so visit the official website of Selenium.
yeah, sure. Thanks for that reference as well. So yeah, I have just another question. Like with Java, we can use Maven as a build management tool, right?
Hmm.
So can we use Maven with Python as well?
See, actually, right now, the Python has its own set of IDE and it has its own set of build management. Okay. I think we can still use it because Jenkins pipeline needs a Maven, but I am still not sure about it because I am not expertise in Python. Okay, I am expert only in terms of Java. So I may not be able to a right person to trigger your answer.
Okay, sure, no problem. But really appreciate your session. So it was really
Thank you.
helpful. Yeah, that's all from my side. Thank you so much.
One small question, ma'am.
Go on, Gaurav.
It's like when we talk about API testing, there are some tools in the market like Rest Assured you have mentioned, and there is one small tool also that which is Postman. So in Postman, you can do programming with API testing in Python also, in JavaScript also, in Java also. So what
There
we
are
should
lot
choose?
many tools. There are lot many tools available, Gaurav. You have SOAP UI, for which you can do Groovy scripting, right? So
Okay,
tools are
okay,
many. Now, same way, right now, how do I have Selenium? I have Tosca, I have UFT. There are lot many functional tools available in the market. But what
okay.
is
So do we have to have a dependency on a particular tool, or we have to like go beyond that?
See, like, learning one or more tools is always an added advantage for your profile. Okay.
Okay,
But as a
okay,
part of this curriculum, you've been trained on one API testing tool using Rest Assured. But whether you
yes, yes.
wanted to learn SOAP UI, whether you wanted to learn Postman, it always adds a profile. But end of the day, it is still part of your SDET only.
Okay, okay,
Okay. So whether this SDET engineer knows about a single tool from one category or does he knows one or more tool from the same category, that matters, and it mounts up or it adds an advantage to your profile.
so like after the training from this course, we'll be able to make a automation framework for a particular application or for a particular
You must
software.
be.
Okay. And will it be also including the mobile part, or it will be only
No,
focusing on the
mobile
web
testing
part?
is not part of this. Actually, mobile testing which can be an APM and so on, but it is not part of the current curriculum.
Okay, okay, okay. Thanks, man.
Hello.
Just have
Yeah.
one question.
Last 2 minutes for this webinar.
Hello.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, we discussed about CI/CD products, right? There we came across like two phases, like unit testing and integration testing. So those are like functional kind of testing, or they'll be checking the code, like whether
Okay.
the code is breaking or not.
It is a functional testing which is done on the code. Because if you look at the levels of testing, right, it includes unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and the acceptance testing. Where unit and the integration testing are part of your white box testing category, which is always predominantly exercised on the code,
Code.
where the internal logic is being exercised. But whereas a system and UAT, right, that can be done, which is considered to be called as a black box testing, which is always done on the GUI part of an application. So integration and unit testing is done on the code where internally the logic is being exercised.
Okay. So all this training that you will be giving the classes, or someone else will be training on this?
Your voice is very feeble, Madhusudan. Like, I think you have to make it little louder.
Yeah, like whatever the curriculum that we are discussing right now. So
Mhm.
that would be the training will be given by you or someone else.
I will be the one who will be doing it.
Okay, great. Thanks for this session. It is very helpful, Jyoti.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
Yeah, Shravan. Sorry,
Yeah.
Saravan.
Yeah. My question is actually I'm currently working as a manual tester.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to move into if I want to switch it to automation tester,
Okay.
do I need to learn all these things or only Selenium plus Java is enough?
See, to be an automation test engineer, it's enough if you wanted to go with Java and Selenium. But however, if you have to stand unique out of the competition with the current market standard, then you may have to learn all of them. Because learning only Java and Selenium will not fulfill your complete test automation needs. Unless otherwise all of these things are being not integrated as a part of your learning journey, right? It might not be suffice for you to call to be an automation test engineer.
Okay.
For sure, you will be a tester, but to be labeled as an automation test engineer, you must be able to do the engineering from end to end.
Mhm. Okay.
Hope I answered.
Okay, thank you so much.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
Ketan, you are taking it for a closure?
Yeah, just a last question. Okay, let somebody asking. Please answer.
Okay, I have another question related to move to automation testing. Also, I am a QA manual tester. I have one question that it is more personal question for you. What is better to take at first, Java with Selenium or Python with Selenium?
What was your current knowledge level? Is that something, any other programming knowledge that you already have?
Yeah, I'm just learning Python as the first language programming.
Okay.
But I have that question because I saw that in some job offers.
Yeah, so SDET, when we move on to the, there are several certification programs of SDET, right? So the fun, like, no, the current professional version, whatever we've been driving through, it goes with Java. But once after you complete all of them, perhaps this been driven through the Python, which is another version of certification.
Okay, thanks.
Right?
Hi Jyoti, I'm waiting from long time. Can you give me a
Go ahead,
chance?
Venkatesh. Please go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, actually, I have 6 years of manual testing experience.
Okay.
After taking up this course, or should I start as a fresher, STech, or how it's like? Our companies are ready to give us chance with zero experience in STech, real-time experience.
See, one thing that everyone have to be able to perceive. Now, though you've been learning these concepts, maybe at as like, as a fresher, consider for fresher for SDET, but though, how is that 6 years of your manual testing journey is going to add a value added to your current profile, will deal with the confidence on how exactly or what exactly you have been doing it with. Okay, it is at a high level. But if you've been really precisely concentrating about what my experience on SDET, for sure it will be 0th experience only. Okay, but how much confidently can you be able to go ahead and do automate an application that all your 6 years of experience of manual testing should be applied on the learning journey of your SDET can always be a better plan.
Okay.
So you still are 6 years experience.
Yes.
Okay, that cannot be changed. Okay, so the 6 years of experience on manual testing for sure will add an advantage to your SDET program.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So if no further questions, Ketan, can we take this to a closure?
Yes, thank you so much, Kaj, for joining this webinar. And every month we are going to have a technical webinar. So please subscribe to our DevLab LinkedIn page or YouTube channel, and you will get a lot of technical information from our channel. Okay. Thank you so much for joining. Have a great day and good night, Kaj. Thank you, Jyoti. Thank you. Bye bye.